of the league, in the middle of the street, and Peter Keogh said, "Just that dog was hers like Lynch's dog."
Yeah.
And yes, we pulled up anyway, and wasn't it? But you couldn't catch him. He kept going.
From Kilcock.
He landed. I don't think we caught him. Sure we didn't.
I forget now, but he went home.
He went home anyway. He got home.
Yeah.
And that was happening.
To his original home.
Oh
not
yeah, down the north.
Mornington.
Mornington.
From Mornington.
Yeah.
Found his way home. My God.
Yeah, from Kilcock.
My God.
Yeah. And another time, Patsy Smith, Lord of Mercy, went over in Boards Mill.
Boards Mill, he's
a big,
dead.
this was a big dog.
He's
And we
about
brought
half on
the
station.
boat. And you were letting me out in the Moy. We weren't married or anything at this
this is all
this
going on
stage.
before we got married.
He was letting me out, and the dog got out. And the next time the dog took down to the bog.
Going down for Tom
across.
Balls.
Down Tom Balls, and he wasn't seen either for a few weeks. And we couldn't go back, terrified to go back to Patsy to tell him that the dog was gone. And like that too, after so long, the dog didn't go home.
Yeah, he went back
down
to Boards Mill.
Boards Mill. You
Yeah,
couldn't believe it.
That's a fact.
You know, and he brought in the boat, the
Yeah.
same as the other lad was brought in the boat too.
That's incredible.
You know, yeah.
So that's more or less.
It's
When you Nan, when you left school, were your people farmers or no?
No, just
No.
live in the cottage.
What?
no, my
Yeah.
uncles used to plant trees,
Plant
the nursery.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they used to
What,
say.
what turn did your life take then after leaving national school?
Well, then,
Working
as I
in
say,
Fowler's.
I went to the convent for a few years, and then I started
That's
then
in Trim, is it?
in Trim. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're opposite the one opposite Lynch's, across the street, and then I went to Fowler's, and I was there, as I said, 10 or 11 years,
Wow.
and then I left there and I went into Spicer's factory, the envelope factory, and on the Trim Road there where Lost is now. And I could be 12, 13 years there.
What was the experience like in Fowler's? I don't mean in a personal way, but that type of work. How did you
Yeah,
find
well,
it?
I was the waitress there in it. I used to serve the
And would they have parties and what?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd have parties and the hunt and all that. And you'd have to be there giving out drinks at a meet, you know, at the hunt. They'd come outside and that. And then they'd have big dinner parties and that. Yeah. And
Did you live in or?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you were laid back or that, she'd be, Mrs. Fowler could be at the top of the stairs when you'd go in the front door, you'd be sneaking in. She with the hot water bottle here in the stomach and where were you until this time at night? Yeah, if you were late or, well, very late, like, you know.
And was there much of a staff in that house?
Oh, there was, yeah. There was a cook and a waitress and there was a few maids now in it at that time, yeah.
And how many family were there at that time?
Well, there was the Brigadier and herself, and then Sarah Harrington now, Sarah Walford, that was her daughter, her first daughter, Sarah and Simon Walford down here from Summerstown. They were brother and sister. And then Mrs. Fowler, then that was from her first husband, and then she married the Brigadier Fowler, and then Jessica. She had Jessica Fowler, a boy and a girl, and John.
And so the two families from were together at the same time, were
Oh
they?
yeah,
Right.
at that time. Yeah, yeah.
So there was quite a lot to cater for.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then there'd be always, as I say,
Other people.
other people in the night parties. And the Brigadier used to eat snipe.
Yeah.
And when you need that size, 5 minutes to cook. And you'd have nothing to do with them, just put them in and not clean. And should have you only a little board, a small little board, and you stick the beak, you know, around, bring the beak around before you put them into cook. And oh Lord, you know, it was 5 minutes, that's all it used to take.
Yeah. And the dinner parties, would there be many at the dinner party?
Oh, there would, yeah, there would. But then in later years then there wouldn't be. you know, at the start all right, and they'd be always at you know, at the races and that, and Mrs.
And was there any ever special guests that came from England or anything like that?
Oh God, yeah, oh there would, yeah, there would. And
So you enjoyed your time there?
yeah, I liked it over there. Jenny Weldon, then she used to work on it, on poor Dolly Gorey, Dolly Kelly, Lord of Mercy, and her worked in it. And, there was a lot came and went, and you know,
Beautiful.
when I was in it.
You were 12 years there.
Yeah, yeah, I was.
And your time in the quarry, that was a huge stint of time.
22 years.
Mm.
I was in the quarry, and then, as I say, I was home here for 4 years, and I went to Alfco then, and it was 29 years in Alfco.
But back in the quarry, you were a driver, you say, and you were out,
Yeah,
out
well,
and
I was
about.
driving, and I used to be driving, and I used to work the switches and work on the machine, the mills that was grinding.
Oh.
I used to be in the switch room,
All right.
operating the switches, and that's what I used to be at a lot. And then I was driving the dumper in it. I often, a time I used to come home here, often went to a dance and trim, and I'd come home here, and I'd have to go, we'd have to start up in the quarry, go down and start maybe at 6 o'clock in the morning to have loads ready, ground for the lorries coming in at 8 o'clock. Jack Allen would be loaded, all the rest of me. Jack was married to a first cousin of mine, and he'd be there. And a few more would be there. Of course, I wouldn't be there on my own. You weren't allowed to be there on your own. Funny enough, at that time, they always had to be a couple. But it'd be lads that start drawing up at that time, when the lights became good and that, and the daylight had become, and they'd start up the dumpers and drawing up and that type of thing, you know. Went on from there then, so eventually I packed it up, as I said, previous to that, for 4 years I was here then, and I went to Alfco, got a job when I was 29 years there.
That was very interesting work, I'm sure, as well, in Alfco.
Oh, brilliant, yeah, because I was travelling around the country. I consider myself like a traveller, because I was doing a lot of travelling, I suppose, when I was on the line where I got to know a lot of the country. And that particular time then, when Roadstone took it over in the 70s, I used to be sent to Slane to drive. I was driving a biggish lorry enough, I suppose you would count it. Not when I was in the beginning, it was, the line lorries were smaller than the ones then. When we went to Slane, we big wheel lorries, you know, and we used to have to go all around different parts around Slane and all around that country. And, but even when I was in the quarry, then I used to drive for a long time on a small pickup yoke, and I used to be up in Dublin a lot. They had a big place up in Dublin and off there with their head office, and I'd be up there drawing spreaders from the docks up to where they had a yard, be at that all day maybe.
And would that be exported?
No, they were after bringing them in off the docks.
Right.
They'd be bringing them in, and I'd have to put them behind, tow them behind them. And that time, the peculiar thing about it, there was no such thing as you having flashers or anything to indicate where you were. You drive along the middle of this, up along Crossboat Bridge and on up to Charlemont Street. You'd no indicator or not. And then I used to get another thing I used to do then, when it's amazing the way things have changed so much. That time then I used to go up to Enfield. I had the explosives factory in Enfield, and every Saturday I'd load it up with boxes of Gelignite and Cortex and all that, and I'd come back home here, and I'd head of a Monday morning to Donegal, down to Convoy in Donegal, with the load of stuff. There was no such thing as
soldiers or yards.
Not the thing, would drive down to Convoy, and you'd be down there and take off your load and head back. It would take me all day, like, you know.
Of course. And what relationship was there between the quarry and Convoy?
Because they had a quarry down there as well.
All right,
they also had a quarry below. I used to be down a lot down in Dungarvan,
Right.
in Kappa in Dungarvan. Now, another thing I done for a few years before I got married to Nan, was I used to do work the drilling machine down in Boyle. That they used to do hire work for other ones down in Boyle. They used to drill down there for a fella called Jerry Layden. And Jerry Layden, they were big into the Rigna coal mines. You could see the Rigna coal mines across there, but they were drilling for limestone for putting on the land.
Right.
And I used to drive home every Friday evening. I'd drive home, course home to see Nan, and back then Monday morning. Have to get up early to go back. And I'd work all night. She used to tell me, no, I wouldn't be working all night, I'd be off for another one.
Gallivanting.
And I'd be working maybe till 12 o'clock in the night,
Right.
above on this quarry, so that I could, you were getting paid by the foot,
Right.
so much a foot,
Right.
and which would be very little. And I'd be working maybe till 12 o'clock in the night, go home, go down, the digs was in the diamond in, or not the diamond, it wasn't called diamond, it was a big monument in the middle of Boyle, and I used to stop there with a woman. That's where I used to get digs.
Right.
Mm.
That was tough enough. You were a young man, of course.
Oh yeah, well able for that time.
Yeah.
But then I often was driving home. I changed the car. Then I had it was an Austin Somerset.
Oh.
Just remember coming down into what you call them. If I didn't come home on Friday, I came home Saturday morning. And I got a waffle skid in the middle of Lump. I used to go into a restaurant there. Then maybe sometimes I'd be up and down there. If I was going down to Donegal with Laura, I'd always go into a restaurant in Longford, a lovely restaurant there in the middle of the town. But that's all bypass now. But sure, like them things was unreal, like what went on. You know, the different story to nowadays. You wouldn't do that now. You went down, you'd stay down there for the night.
Sure.
And not drive back the whole day. We drove back one time, another fella, he's still alive, Kevin Burton and I, we started off here at 3 o'clock of a Monday morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we went with the collector crusher down in Convoy in Donegal. And we went down, and the foreman down there was a brilliant foreman, John Brennan was his name, and he said, well, you go ahead, boys, down the street, there's the van, down the street, you get your breakfast, and we'll have this loaded for you. Again, you come back, a big crusher.
Right.
14-ton weight it was.
Wow.
So we never got to put the lorry. Now, Kevin drove down, and he drove a lot of the way coming back, but we never got to put the lorry in top gear. The lorry never over.
Struggling.
It had to be done away with after. It never over that drive.
Okay.
Was that the time that you had to go back for something?
What I tell you, we come home and we went to bed. We're back here at 5 o'clock then, the following morning. I don't go to sleep or anything. You're talking about the way they work now. I don't go to sleep and I come back here. And that morning I went to bed here. Well, I was definitely married that time, yeah.
Mm.
And came to bed, and at about 12 o'clock, Alan arrived at the door, and he said, I want you to go down to Mount Nugent with this yoke. I just said, I'm not going. And I had the lorry parked at the end of the road. I brought home the lorry I dropped off Kevin in Trim. He must have been living in Trim at the time. And dropped him off, and he was so, but I said, no, I'm not going. Down to below where Mount Nugent. Yes, that's an awful journey. So I think he eventually I wouldn't go. And he got Kevin. Kevin went. I couldn't stick it. I was dead bad. So that was that for that particular time anyway. So that was one of the episodes. Oh, there'd be several other ones then. We used to be going back, then it probably, I'd be wrong if I didn't mention this, Matty Lynch, again, Lord rest him, we used to be spreading lime with an old a bad old tractor, an old Fords and Major tractor, no lights, nothing on these yokes, no proper brakes, nothing. And where were we sent to spread the lime? Up in the Dublin, up in Tala. Now, I mean Tala, that time, there was no such thing as houses.
Sure.
I was all land, farmers up there. And we went up, and Artie MacDonald was sent to us, loading these yokes with a shovel, loading these spreaders, and they held about a ton or 2 ton at a time, the spreaders, pulled behind the tractor, not up on lifts, no lifts on the tractor anyway. No hydraulic brakes, no nothing. And we'd load it and we'd go off down, but this day anyway, we were going, I said, we weren't killed with bad hard. We were loading it this day, and we went up, I went off, and it didn't take off. And I said, Jesus, and the boys was on the top, on the drawbar, and they drive, and all I could think of was jammed it in, I jammed it into reverse with salt, because it was going down into a big valley. And oh yes, I said, this thing of it, and if you left the yoke to get you behind. But anyway, I got to jam it and I got to slow it down, and up out of the gearbox, smoke and flames come up out of the gearbox. Was that new? Oh, stop! The times was in it. The danger was something else. Oh yeah, with the same old tractor. We're down the quarry one day, Kit Kelly, and he was driving it, and he parked it up. He was parking it up on there was a slope down for starting. The only way you could start, nothing is started running down the hill.
Sure.
So I was coming in on pickup. I used to drive pick-up a lot, and I was parked here on the road before you could just below the quarry now. And the next thing I seen this tractor whistling down, and down, and the dumpers used to come up around there with big rocks, and they used to fall off. But next thing I seen it going down, and the next thing I heard that roar. Oh Jesus! Kit was after parking, he was putting a stone on front of the trailer until the tractor took off, and all he could do was he grabbed the drawbar and held onto it, and lucky enough in a big stone, I was going to go up through the ditch out into the cricket field, and here didn't a big stone jam it, and here was Kit then under it. Oh merciful God, I tore down Alan Road, Alan, come up quick. I said, there's Kit Kelly is in this tractor. So up we got him out, and we said, are you alive, Kit? Just about. Dragged him out, and he was blacker than black. His face all gone black. He was almost dead. So we didn't know what to do, but Alan put him into the van, little van. Yeah, where's the van? Yeah. And just I could tell you stories forevermore. You'll never keep all this. But into the little van, and I must have been in the car. No, Alan had a car that time. I used to have to pick up, he used to take it off me sometimes, but he this van anywhere. A car he had. Put him into the car, and I went into the front. And Kit was in the back, and there he was, and he black as that yoke. So I was going into Trim anyway, we're going to head for Nav. I'll never forget this. And he says, will you get me a smoke? And she would neither of a smoke. So I tied a few shillings, tore into the bon, brought him out 5 lit up matches and all, lit up for him. And clear to God, he came back to being from black
brought the
to
life
white.
back to him.
Really?
He came back to white. We kept going with him anyway, and I remember this as well too. Went on down and we brought him into Navan, and I don't know was there any such thing as waiting in the casualty or anything anyway. He landed above in the bed. We brought him up anyway, up the stairs it was. It must have been, yeah. And over here, who did I see in the bed? I can still see him this day, with Tommy Fields from Summerhill, young Tommy. That was another occasion I had with Tommy Fields going from school. I was going down the road in the pickup again, always in the pickup, and here didn't I see Tommy coming, flittering. There was the line lorry was coming up, a short lorry, Paddy Mooney was driving it, and here he with a grip of it, and he pulling him on the bike.
Oh God.
Oh, and I looked in the mirror, and the next thing I seen him fall into the ditch. He went into the ditch. He couldn't keep up with he couldn't get away. Whatever happened to him, he couldn't let go. But he fell into the ditch. Anyway, so, oh Lord God, so I went back. And I don't know who came along or whatever, but anyway, I think got the ambulance and brought him to Navan. And that's how, after that, I seen him in Navan. But to this day, Tommy can only hear him one ear.
Yeah.
And that, the while the bike went into his ear.
Oh, no.
Do you know the yokes on
He
the
was
bike?
lucky, but
Not the brakes now, they're long yokes coming
Yeah.
out. One of them went into his ear. If you know how Tommy feels, he can only hear him one ear.
yeah.
And you ask him what happened to him. Someday you're talking
Sure.
to him. Ask him what happened to you, Tommy, that you can't hear that well. He got a grip of the moat, or the what you call them, the
a
Lorry.
deadly dangerous thing.
deadly dangerous thing to do.
How did Christy Kelly fare out?
Christy Kelly fared out as regards being in the school.
In hospital. How did he...
No, this was
Kit.
Tommy Fields that I saw.
Yeah, sure, but
Yeah,
when...
but Kit Kelly.
Oh,
Kit Kelly.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kit
Yeah.
came okay.
Well, no breakages.
No, Kit came all right. I don't know how I was sure if it was again he'd be killed, like, because there were only for whatever, it wasn't going that desperate fast, but the big rocks at the corner, when they used to fall off the dumper going up, they'd be swinging in and going up this hill, and this dumper used to be barely, now two-stroke, up to go up a hill, and might be going up a mountain.
Yeah.
And it said barely get to the top, and it was a relief to get to the top. So it was. Oh yeah.
Incredible stuff.
So,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and this be walking at night, another poor Benny Ennis used to be walking down there in the night. He was a kind of a foreman in the night. And we used to be we were filling up an old ditch one time with this particular type of dumper, and I was driving at the time. And we'd be backing in with no brakes. Talking about, no, and we backing in, dipping it down into this hole anyway. Along near enough where the old shed was built after. We were filling it up for build the shed and this night we tipped it up anyway. And the next thing didn't go down into the fucking ditch. And up it went, and I pulled the lever and went up, and I lost out my old cap. And poor Benny said, Lord God mercy, was alive, he tell you this. I said, where my hat is gone, I'm not to lose my hat. And the dumper was down in the bottom of the ditch. I don't know how we ever got out.
And was there an open cab on it? How did you get out
Oh
of it?
no, you couldn't. What was in front of you was just a sheet like that. It was all iron like that. No such thing as a cab on it, not at all. You were standing up there. Joe Mooney used to drive one of them as well. And not at all, no cab.
But you didn't get flung out of it, you weren't injured as such.
No, I didn't
When
get
when it
no,
fell.
when tipped up, whatever happened to me hat, it fell down the back. But I got it anyway, so... no, Joe Mooney walked down there too.
Can you remember any characters, like stories and, incidents over your life?
In the quarry.
Or anywhere at any period?
There would be different yokes. The poor old Thomas Gallen, the Lord rest him, used to walk down there, and we'd be maybe drawing up these stones. I worked at a few different jobs in there, apart from driving the lorry and that. I worked drawing up the stones in the dumper, and we'd go up maybe in the morning with a load and tip it in, and Thomas Gallen would be walking the crusher, and the crusher was a way off down there, and we'd a little walk down to where he'd be, and there was a place along the crusher where you'd be, where you'd be, if you had to break a stone or that type of thing, and maybe a big rock would go down into it. That time they used to break them that well, and a big rock, and you'd be hitting it. Now we'd supposed to go down a little boy sledge, and we'd be supposed to bit away. Okay, the crusher lad used to be able to keep them clear enough. But you wouldn't be supposed to be bringing up these big rocks. But this particular morning anyway, this big stone went into it. And jeez, I seen it below me down to Tom. And Tom was below Baton and there was blue smoke coming out with sparks. Jesus, this is Tom. He says, and it's about 8:30. He says, you won't feel night coming now. I never forget him. Oh, it's a real shocking characters. Characters. To know it. Then another carry-on used to be the CIE was working on it, drawing out the line. The line was 16 shillings a tonne delivered and spread. 16 shillings a tonne delivered and spread. And this time the CIE used to be drawing it out. And there had a couple of lorries their own, Ned Rafferty of course, and Jim Nugent was in it, and Andy Young of course. And the boys that'd be walking around the quarry there, be in around, that'd be bringing, working. There used to be robbing petrol out of the petrol lorries in the CIE. They'd be down with sucking tubes. And when they get the boys going into the office, they get Paddy Tully worked in the office. Oh. And they'd be going in to get their dockets and their stuff and told where to go and all this crack. And the boys would be in under the lorry with a tube, sucking it into the can, putting in Mick Quinn, and all these books would be at that. So, and Mooney, of course, would be at it, sucking this up of petrol for the car. It shows you how, if the wages were huge bad now, you'd be lucky now if you got £3 a week. Right. That'd be big wages for you.
And that's roughly what year?
In about 1959 and that type of thing. Right. 59, 60 and on there, and Carter improved them, and Roadstone took over in the 70s, 71, 72. Of course, they had the union.
It was Mead Lane, wasn't it? That?
Oh, it was Mead Lane, but I'm talking about that.
Yeah, at the start.
Yeah, Mead Lane. It started off in 1954. A fella called Miss Kelly was the foreman, and at that time, he was from Wexford, and he used to stop here with us, and he had it on for a few years. I remember he had to pick up. That time he had to pick up a petrol yoke too, indeed it was. And I remember him and Jack Allen going to, and I went with him to the junior final in Park Talton in 1953. It was 53. The quarry could have started in 53. It was 53, I'm telling you wrong by 54.
That's the year you got married as well, isn't it?
No, it's 63.
63, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we went on the back of the pickup and I had a big coat, a big old long coat. I don't know where I got it off someone. It was way too big for me. I went to the county final in Park Talton. Paddy Daly, the Lord of the rest of them, was playing. Paddy Tully. Paddy Tully played centre field along with John Donlan. And Cogler Fagan in the goals, Larry Dwyer full back, Niall Fagan corner back, centre field was Donlan of course, and half for Johnny Fagan, Paddy Austin was on it, Niall Fagan was on it, Ollie Fagan was on it, Ollie Fagan and who was Mannix, the two Mannix, the relation of John Shaw. Yeah. They were all on it. Shemmy Shoes and Noel Austin, they were subs. Don't think Tom wasn't, no. Brendan Tully, he was on it, he was a sub. Who's centre half back? I'm forgetting who's centre half back. But that was how I kind of more like, well, I started off going to Shaw's Field. That's how I became involved in the football, and from there on, as I'm still involved in Summerhill up to the present time.
That was called the cricket field at one time, at the back of Shaw's.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, we used to go to Shaw's and we'd tug out of a Sunday. Remember being up there we were playing Rathmolane one time there. Playing with Rathmolane, of course, was Tony Harnan, Mick Ennis, Razor Farrell, all them type of lads. All the Christies, Paddy Christie, not Paddy Christie, no. Desi Christie and Freddie Christie, all them fellas was playing with Rathmolane at the time. You know, and we used to tug out on the manger, sitting on the manger above where Kit Martin used to milk the cows. He'd have them gone out at this stage at 2 o'clock in the day. And that's where and then of course I used to go to Summerhill. I had a sister in Summerhill, as you probably well remember, Tessie, the Lord rest her. And I used to go up to Summerhill there, and she used to, I often went to Crow Park. The first time I ever went to Crow Park, I went up to the corner above at the post office, and Donny Hanna, the Lord rest him, he went to America after, he's dead and gone indeed. And from there, we'd home the lift. The first man I went to Crow Park was Mick Cummins and Simon Riley, which was the postman in Summerhill. Mick Cummins was a rate collector. And I went to Crow Park, went in on the sideline. That time you were in the sideline. I think we used to get in for sixpence that time, the two of us. And we brought us back, so that was my first time to Crow Park. Then we started going on the bus from Summerhill, 11 o'clock bus. Donny and I got on the bus, and we go up to Crow. Now Tessie, the Lord rest her, used to give me 5 shillings. Go up to Crow Park, get into Crow Park, and when Crow Park would be up finished, that was when I saw the full 1949 B team. In 49 that was, and it was the end of 49. They were after winning the All-Ireland. It was be about in October 49. They were playing the grounds tournament final against Wexford, and come back on the bus. On the bus we had to pay. Anyway, we used to go across the shop, and we used to get Taylor Keats minerals, was 3p a bottle, and we used to buy a couple of buns. And pay on the bus, I think it was 1 and 6p or something on the bus, I'm not sure. Or was it 1 and 6 up and back? I forget now, but anyway, I wouldn't be 100% sure about that. But anyway, I'd have a couple of pence when I come home after the 5 shillings.
And your day's entertainment.
After all that. Yeah. And beyond the sideline. Went on the sideline.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And another thing I just forgot to mention, which was your brother Tom. Another time we went up to the cinema. We went on the bus too, of course, from Summerhill up to this cinema. I forget the name of it. He would remember. Up to see Long John Silver. You ever hear tell of him? Well, we went up to that.
Treasure Island, probably.
Treasure Island. Right. Yeah, the name of the film was Treasure Island.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a lot of the things that happened in my time. Back to where I am now today, living here where I was more or less, well, I was reared here, sure. I was only 2 when I came here, and I'm here ever since.
Right. Travel-wise, you've both travelled a bit.
Oh yeah, we went to lots of different. We went to lots of different places. First of all, we went to Termalinas, Spain. Yeah.
We were in Crete, and we were in.
We went to Crete. Went to Portugal.
Yeah.
We went, Mallorca. Tenerife,
Lanzarote,
all them places. Yeah. And then back a couple of years ago there, 2 or 3 years ago, for her 50th anniversary, we were 50 years married.
The lad sent us on a
cruise.
Oh, brilliant.
For a week.
Went on a cruise for a week, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Where did you pick up the ship?
We picked up
Palma. We flew out to Palma.
We went to different places.
Yeah.
around in the boat, in the big ship.
And we had a lovely
I'll show
room
you
and
a
all.
photograph of the ship,
It
or the
was
boat.
in the middle, say, and there was a big window like that. And when you'd waken up in the morning, you'd look out to the sea, and you'd be in a different port
Of course.
each morning, because every night it'd start off around 7 o'clock, and you'd be moving, going different places. You know, it'd be in the
So sail at
night
night
time.
and then dock and
yeah,
see the
yeah.
city, yeah.
And then you get off then, and for so many hours, and that, and we hadn't to pay a penny.
Now, you want
Yeah, thanks.
What did you do with all the rest of them?
And that's,
Where's what?
and that's,
Turn
that's
on the heat. What did you do with all the rest of them?
the rest
The
of what?
photographs in the brown envelope.
I don't know.
And the
where-
cruise.
Oh, I don't know.
Remember, I found them and you put them away.
Oh,
They're probably up
God only knows where.
so you were hobnobbing it with the captain.
with the captain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
we
was the
had
captain's night, you see.
Yeah,
All right,
Yeah, he had a dinner. That was the captain's dinner.
yeah.
right.
I don't know where now you put them.
Yeah.
So you've travelled quite a bit.
Oh,
Ah, we
we have,
did, yeah,
But now
we
we
did.
go to Spain. We're after going to Spain for the last 10
Only
years.
back Friday night.
Only
so-
back Friday night here.
Yeah.
We go twice a year maybe to Spain.
Right.
3 weeks, nearly a month we were there in
Yeah,
May.
lovely.
We were there
Into
in a
June.
month
And we
and-
were
well,
there
end
over
of May,
2 weeks.
beginning of June.
Great.
And we went this time here in October for we're nearly 3 weeks away
Yeah.
again.
Lovely. Lovely.
So
What
it's-
part of Spain?
We fly into Alicante Airport and we go down along the 332, is the name of the road. It's a kind of a main road. And we,
It's only 20 minutes.
20
down.
minutes in the car down.
Yeah, down to the park.
Yeah,
All right.
Dennis is a place
Mm.
over there.
Right.
yeah.
in Lanmarie. is
And
the
we were back a couple of years ago. I drive the car over there, believe it or not.
Sure.
On the wrong, like what we call it, the wrong side of the
Good
road,
for
it's the
you.
right side
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
And we take a trip down to a place called Lazinia, which is a famous name, Paddy's Point down there.
Right.
It's a famous pub. And all the football matches and everything would be on down there. If Meath was playing or whoever would be playing the All Ireland, we were down
You
there
get to see
for
it.
the All Ireland that Tyrone was in, and Tyrone and Dublin, we were at that, down there for that All Ireland. And on one of the occasions down there, who do we meet? When he coming out with a big pint in his hand, only Joe Dolan.
And Ben, the
And
brother.
Ben.
Yeah.
You know, and he was a down-to-earth fella, doing no different than anybody
You had a
else.
chat with him.
And
yeah.
a lot of the
Ah,
people
yeah.
didn't realise who he was.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Of course
Wouldn't know,
we did.
wouldn't know him.
Wouldn't know him, like, you know, but he was there drinking his
Because your man that owns it, Comiskey,
Comiskey.
he's from Mullingar.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
he's an auctioneer.
And
His son is an auctioneer, a big estate agent over there. He is, and still there.
Right.
Yeah, but when we went in, all photographs of football, all the first lad we saw was a great pose of Colin O'Rourke,
Oh,
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
my God. Yeah.
so that's more or less it. Now, are you happy with where we're at?
Absolutely. Of course, it's your story. Way back, you mentioned your mother lived near Dangan Church there.
Yeah.
Originally.
Up the lane there,
With
there
Jack
was
Sweeney.
what do you call it up there, a gravel pit up there one time.
Sweeney's.
And that's where she came
Okay.
from up there.
And you also mentioned Jack Power.
Jack Power he lived here, this side of the chapel. If you can imagine this side of the chapel, where you go
The
down
hill.
to Dangan, the Dangan Castle.
Castle.
Along there, there was
The-
attached house
Right.
there.
Right. And he lived there.
Yeah,
Jack
the other thing I didn't mention was going to school in Dangan. We used to go over across. Kitty Hughes had a shop,
Yeah.
which it got burned down it was in the 40s, I think, or 48 or 49. It got burned down. They built that new house there. But I remember the day it was burned down well, and it was of a Sunday actually, I think. And we used to go over there and we get, if your mother hadn't something, a bit of bread or something to give you going in the mornings, we'd go over there and we get 2 slices of bread and jam, good jam and stuff, for €3, 3 pence.
Right.
Yeah. We used to go and look.
See the shop.
And then always a great treat then. There must have been no electricity in it at this stage, there mustn't have been. Because I remember that she had a generator and she started selling ice cream.
Oh,
Oh, it was great. The ice cream now, she used to, this generator was working, that must have kept the freezer going. I don't know how it was, but there was no electricity, there mustn't have been. But then that house got burned there, and then she built the place where it's still there, that place, she made the shop there. And they had living accommodation there for a while while they were building a new house.
right,
The new house was built in 1950,
right,
and they called it Marion House.
right.
Yeah. Did you go to Seamus to ask him, did he do any?
I haven't seen Seamus now.
No.
Will do, of course, yeah.
Did you get many victims like me?
Oh, there's a few. I'll tell you all about them now in a minute. But just dealing with the characters you would have come across. Now I know you mentioned in the course of in the Limekill all the characters you met there.
Yeah.
But are just around about, can you remember any other? The people.
Yeah, well, I could go on forever. I didn't tell you about going to, as I told you earlier on there, about going down. Jack Mack, as I said, lived down the field there, going to the fairs with him in Summerhill.
Jack
Mack was his name.
Mack.
Yeah, and then along with him, if a son, then they used to have a path going himself and a fella called Shamie Allen, which would be
Eileen Quinn's.
Quinn's uncle.
Right.
And they used to, and
Is that on the Mill Road?
Huh?
On
Yeah.
the Mill Road?
Yeah, he did live eventually on the Mill Road, but he used to be down there with Jack Mack, and he lived over here with Mrs. Ennis, which was his sister.
Right.
And Mrs. Ennis.
Here at Reedstown, is it?
No, down Numberstown.
Umberstown.
Yeah, and he used to go to Mass of a son up across there, and they'd have a string of dogs after them. They'd go up to Dangan Chapel and there'd be a heap of dogs, and they'd be trying to hunt the dogs home if you heard them. But the dogs used to get into the chapel anyway. But then they used to come out of the chapel, and up along here, you know, just as you go up into the castle again, up along there, they used to come out and they used to be playing pitch and toss after Mass of a Sunday.
Right.
And they'd be up only for pennies though. And I can't remember the characters that used to be at the pitch. I think Heyman McCann, there was a fella called Heyman McCann lived down there.
Right.
And the reason he was called Heyman, he used to buy hay and go to Dublin.
Oh.
That was another thing I probably didn't say to you about my father going to Dublin driving cattle.
Right.
He used to drive cattle there, and then he
Actually walked
up
them
to the walk.
to Handels
Up
Corner.
to the Dublin market, up to Handels Corner. Yeah, I remember that market being on well.
Right.
Barry's then had a stand up there, Peter Barry, and that's how my father used to working for Barry's. He worked for Barry until he got to his farm. He had to give up this farm, or give up working in Jack Ryan, which was a brother of his. He lived at the castle, and he kept on his job. And the reason that my father had to give up his job, if he took the farm, he kept on if he didn't take the land. But he took the land, and the reason that he got 22 acres was the standard thing for the Land Commission fellas to get. Anybody that was getting any land, the Land Commission, was 22 acres. But my father got 24 acres because he was the herd in Dangan.
Right.
But he had to resign, he had to give up his job because of,
If he either
then
worked
he got
the
a
land.
job. He got a job working over there in where Dials are now in Farton, the Guinness, with Mrs. Farton. He worked over there as a herd for until he got sick at the age of 42 years.
Sorry.
You mentioned, did you say in 1939 you got the farm?
Yeah,
So the Land Commission must have,
built this house.
sure, but they must have been operating in a couple of different waves, because some of those farms weren't allocated until around about 1960.
That's right. Oh yeah.
So
there was the one, we'll say for instance, the ones down with Bremont there, like Braes and them, they're all new, they're with the last of the Land Commission farms allocated to anybody. The Land Commission broke up then, the Land Commission went out of existence.
And this was part of the Dangan estate.
The Dangan estate, yeah, McCann's down here, J. McCann lived down here, and that was part of it. What really did happen was, I suppose, to cut off the bad land. We had 10 acres down there, very bad, but it got into good state since that. But the land wasn't brilliant. This is good land enough up here. And then until the forestry started out there, and it's all built up now with forestry, of course.
What's your memory of the castle, Dangan Castle, at the earliest memory?
Yeah, well, the earliest memory I could have would be coming home from school. Now, I went to school with the Rochfords. They always come up from Frethens, brought me to school in Dangan when I started off. And Johnny Rochford, or the rest of them, was a wild character and a bit of a character. And we'd be coming home in the evening, and we used to get into, there was tunnels in the lawn, in Barry's lawn. Tunnels, you get into a tunnel and you could go along, and you could go, I reckon you could go over to Peter Carr, the Lord rest Peter above, where he lived, in this tunnel. But then they told us there could be a drop down of maybe 30 foot, and you could go down and you could get up out.
And of course, you had no light. You had no light when
we didn't realise this.
Yeah.
And they started telling us this, then we got afraid.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we used to go, there was what do you call it? The other thing we used to have to do here was bring the water out of the well down at the road. There was a well down, the Rock Well it's called. It's still there, a little flat well.
So initially there wasn't water here.
Oh, not at all. You bring it in a bucket and a stick. Rita and I used to bring, Rita's my sister, she's younger than me, and we used to carry the bucket put a stick out through it and carry the bucket of water. You have to go for water every day down for drinking for the house.
Of course.
And then we collect the rain. It was unbelievable, didn't it?
Some changes over those
Oh,
years.
stop.
The castle itself, it deteriorated in recent years.
Yeah, well, I never remember the castle, Anthony, only what it is now.
Right, but was there not part of it
Yeah, it was
demolished?
part